This is Power Lines, the show that pulls back the curtain on how power really works. Your hosts are Robbie and Terry, both 15. Every week they break down who really runs things and how regular people can push back.
Welcome back to Power Lines, the show that pulls back the curtain on how power really works. I'm Terry.
And I'm Robbie, and today we're asking the big one. Would term limits actually fix Congress, or is that just a bumper sticker idea?
Because everyone seems to agree Congress is broken, but nobody agrees on the cure.
Right? Like about 80% of Americans support term limits in polls. That's basically the only thing left that unites us.
80%. That's more popular than pizza, Robbie.
Nothing is more popular than pizza, Terry, but the point stands. This idea has massive support across party lines.
So what exactly are we talking about? Like, how many terms would a member get?
Most proposals say something like 3 terms in the House. That's 6 years, and 2 terms in the Senate, which is 12 years.
Which sounds reasonable until you realize some senators have served for literally decades.
Senator Robert Byrd served for over 50 years. 50 years in the Senate.
That's longer than most of our parents have been alive, which is a wild sentence to say out loud.
The argument for term limits is basically fresh blood, new ideas, less corruption baked in over time.
And the argument against is that experience actually matters. You need to know how the machine works to operate the machine.
Which, okay, fair. Like you wouldn't want a surgeon who just finished their first week on the job, right?
Exactly. But there's a flip side. Experienced members also have very experienced lobbyists who've been working them for 30 years.
And that's where it gets interesting, because knowledge doesn't just live in the congressman's head.
It lives in the staff, the aides, the career bureaucrats who actually keep the engine running.
So term-limited legislators might actually end up more dependent on lobbyists, not less, because they're always the rookies in the room.
That's a really uncomfortable plot twist for the pro-term limits crowd.
Some researchers have studied this in state legislatures that already have term limits, and the results are genuinely mixed.
Michigan got term limits in 1992, and studies found lobbyist influence actually increased because legislators had less institutional knowledge.
Which is like the opposite of what everyone wanted.
But supporters would say at least you're not dealing with the same entrenched power brokers decade after decade.
The incumbency advantage is real, though. About 92% of House incumbents who run for re-election win.
92%. So the just vote them out argument kind of falls apart when almost nobody ever loses.
Gerrymandering, name recognition, campaign war chests, the deck is stacked before a single vote is cast.
Term limits would at least force open seats, which creates actual competitive races.
And competitive races tend to bring out more voters and more diverse candidates. That part seems genuinely good.
Still, you're trading one problem for another if your replacement is just as captured by money on day one.
Some people say campaign finance reform would do more than term limits because it attacks the root cause,
which is that money flows to whoever holds power, and term limits just shuffle the chairs around the same table.
Other reformers point to ranked choice voting as a way to break the two-party stranglehold without kicking people out artificially.
So term limits might be the popular idea, but not necessarily the most effective lever to pull.
And here's the constitutional wrinkle. Congress would have to vote to limit itself, which is a little like asking turkeys to vote for Thanksgiving.
The Supreme Court actually ruled in 1995 that states cannot impose term limits on federal lawmakers. It would need a constitutional amendment,
which requires 2/3 of Congress and 3/4 of states to agree. That is a very tall mountain.
So even if 80% of Americans wanted, the people who'd have to make it happen are exactly the people it would affect.
That's not corruption technically, but it is a pretty neat little conflict of interest.
The honest answer might be term limits alone won't fix Congress, but doing nothing isn't working either.
It's probably one piece of a bigger puzzle, along with redistricting reform, campaign finance rules, and actually making voting easier.
Systems are complicated, and single solutions to complicated systems usually disappoint.
But the fact that 80% of people across the political spectrum agree on something, that energy is worth paying attention to.
Even if the something needs a few upgrades before it ships.
Exactly, demand the reform, but read the fine print. See you next week on Power Lines.